I am ready.
Hey, my name's James, and you're listening to the TTR, you bitch.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello and welcome. Welcome back to another edition of the Central Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast, episode 175, coming to you live, pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date is September 15th, 2019. The time is 8:22 p.m. Central Standard Time. Dare I say that this will be the best episode ever. Just when you think it's a slow week, esports delivers, just like in the last minute. So we have a lot to discuss, but before we do that, let's say hello to the crew. It's me. My name is Tim. I will be your host for this journey into esports. How are you? And alongside me, as always, is Anuj. Hello, Anuj.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready.
Week 2, baby. Watch surviving.
Yep. Sun turned a week yesterday, so that's kind of exciting. It's getting easier each and every day. You know, I felt like today was probably the easiest regarding sleep-wise and everything. So that's going good. I'm learning, like, as a dad, I can't do things now. Like, I don't have a tattoo, and I've always wanted a tattoo. But I kind of feel like that window's closed, you know?
I don't know, man. Tattoos are so common. You can go tattoo. You can't go face tattoo.
As a
like,
dad, I feel like that it's gone by. It's gone
let's
by.
Let's go get you a tattoo this weekend. Let's go with the
like,
lower
I feel
back.
like now I have
like some...
more valuable things to spend money on.
Let's get some like angel wings on your back.
There you go.
You know, like let's hype it up here.
We got Checkpoint in the chat. Hello, Checkpoint, long-time listener, first-time watcher. Appreciate you being here. We do stream all of our shows on Twitch and other streaming platforms, so you can find us there. Of course, follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring, and that will let you know when we go live every time and all that. So there is that to go off of as well. Let's get into the show, though, because we have a lot to get to. Like I said, this morning we were like, bro, we did a show late last week because my kid was born, and so it was a short week for us when it comes to esports. So, like, there's not a whole lot of news happening, and then just within, I'd say, like the last 5 hours, so much happened. So let's get into some of that right now. You did have the Blast Pro Series Moscow wrap up over the weekend. We'll get to that in E-News because let's be real, who cares, right? Did you care at all? Did you know it was this weekend? I know we talked about it.
Major. Yeah, I did know it was this weekend. I watched 1.5 map of the final, and that's kind of what I caught.
I think that's what I got. I knew it was going on in the finals. Like, I saw the tweet saying, like, so-and-so, like, Avangar is headed to the finals. And I was like, huh. Did not know that was going on. First off, it's called Championship Sunday for a reason. Blast Pro, you got to cut this Championship Saturday crap out. Like, the 2-day tournament, if you're going to do it, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday's weird.
It's really, it throws me off. Like, I have things to do on Saturday, and it's just, I can't stop down to do a final watch at, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Doesn't work that way. And then
I came in and Avangard pulled off its Forza. I'm sorry, it pulled off its win on map 2, and I was like, well, I guess this might be an interesting 30 minutes. So maybe I'll stick around for a moment here.
It's so close. Like, to have a tournament that close to the major. I mean, I'm sure they didn't realize it, or maybe they did when they scheduled it, but never a good time. Never a good time. But that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about CSGO leagues and how they're just kind of sneaking their way into our world. It's always been the thing where, with Overwatch League, League of Legends, now Call of Duty, is the CSGO community kind of just seems to always poo-poo on all the other communities out there because they're like, leagues, franchising, we don't need any of that, right? It's the Wild West here. This is good old-fashioned esports. We can get away with it and still do our thing and keep our identity. And yet I don't think people like realize, Anuj, no, there are CSGO leagues out there. They might not call them franchise, they might not be an official, Counter-Strike league, or association. It doesn't have fancy titles. It's not an official org out there, but it's happening right before our very eyes because Blast Pro announced that they're doing their own little season now. Blast Pro announced the Blast Premier. This will be $500,000 to the winners of each of its 2 season finals. Global Finals for 2020 will feature a massive $1 million prize pool.
Equivalent to the major.
So there's another major, if you want to look at it that way. The entire prize pool of the event sum up to be roughly $4,250,000. This is a quote from the CEO of Blast. The Premier Series will feature a best-of-3 format. We believe we have perfected that format.
Oh, well, it'd be nice if they just used it occasionally in one of their tournaments.
Part of the quote that I didn't write down was something like, we have been playing around looking for the formula for years, and we believe we have found the perfect format. Robbie, you mean the same format that 99% of other tournaments use? Like, you are the only guys not doing a best of 3. Now you're going to act like you invented the best of 3?
Yeah, like not only not doing it, like the only one not doing it for like a premier event, right? Because Blast Pro is considered a premier event in terms of
say what you will about it, right? It's a premier,
So I guess the formula that they were going by before was just don't use it. Like, hey, we figured it out. This is the perfect way to implement best of 3. We're just not going to do it. So no, I think it's obviously good for the scene in terms of having more cash flow come in, right, and bigger prize pools and opportunities. But kind of as we'll go through this, there's a whole different set of issues that are coming up. You mentioned that CS:GO kind of wants to stay, for a lack of a better word, like kind of free in the sense of how they do it. Well, COD felt the same way, right? For years, COD was always like, nope, we want to run our own scene. We're gonna have, this is how our like pools will go. MLG kind of dictates everything else for the most part. And now here they are with the franchising format. I don't think this is one step closer to franchising. I think it's one step closer to like a headache in terms of what we're gonna see with Counter-Strike. You've seen some consolidations.
With stuff like this, I feel like it's every time we almost get it figured out in Counter-Strike, we take 2 steps forward, 1 step back. For the longest time, it was ESL and ECS, which we'll talk about in a moment, butting heads on scheduling. Then they kind of came out and said, look, we're going to be working with DreamHack, ECS, all these other, tournament organizers out there and try figuring out a schedule that works best for everyone, but most importantly, the players. And everyone's like, thank God, we finally have this player break in the season. We know exactly what's going to happen. Is it a lot of Counter-Strike? Yes, but at least we have a schedule. And then Blast Pro was like, hold my beer, guys. I'm going to create my own season now that spreads out throughout the year with all these important tournaments with millions of dollars on the line. So these big teams can't ignore a tournament like this, right? Like, I would even say like Astralis, who said that they're not exclusively playing with Blast Pro anymore. Like, this,
they'll be playing for the million.
They will be going back to Blast Pro. Like, so now we are back to where we were, 2 years ago, even a year ago, where we have yet another CSGO season, a league, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, in the mix, that now these players, now these teams have to figure out scheduling and fatigue issues. On top of that, you have all the other stuff going on. The little iBuyPower Cups, the major qualifiers, right, for teams that have to worry about that. It's it's going
Well,
to
you have the
be a headache.
Intel Grand Slam too, right? Like that's a whole nother thing. I don't know how that's returning or in what capacity, but there's just so many different 500K to $1 million tournaments kind of being presented or like money on the line, but it's all in just these different areas. And so I don't know how they're going to work with timing. And I think this is probably a good time to introduce like the DreamHack ESL like reveal that they just had, or at least kind of discuss it, so we can then go into I think what we think some of the issues or challenges are going to be here.
Yeah, so we didn't really talk about it a couple weeks ago when it was announced. And I think it's just fell off the radar
Major timing and
by the
all
time we got around to the major and everything. We just didn't discuss it, so our bad. But DreamHack and ESL announced that they are partnering up for the ESL Pro Tour, a new CSGO circuit. This is just some spark notes on it. An aggregated prize pool of around 5 million US dollars, so very close to Blast. Um, where they will combine over 20 ESL and DreamHack events that build up to 2 major events a year. So all the little DreamHack, Malmo or whatever, all these little DreamHacks that you probably stopped paying attention to because they really started getting spare teams, all of a sudden now are turning into a very important event that teams are going to have to pay attention to because it's part of this circuit.
point system. You're going to want to accumulate the points. Missing out on these tournaments could cost you a league spot or an opportunity to
You know,
play in their like
kind of
final
reminds me a
premiere.
little
So
bit about the complaints of Call of Duty, right? The CWL was such a massive grind, even for like pro players. Like you could be Optic, right? Like best team in the league at one point in time. And they were still having to put in the normal grind that like a normal, I don't want to say like a normal player, but
yeah, like they would have to put in a grind that felt unnecessary because especially in COD and where it's going to differ highly from CS is in Call of Duty when they go and play in some of these like game battles to get their points, they're playing against no names, right?
yeah.
Like they're going against people like you and me that maybe signed up in advance a little bit, and like they're getting an opportunity to. For them, it's a big opportunity to play against a high level team, but you won't see that in this type of event, right? So now I think what's going to happen is some of these events are going to become relevant again. Like a lot of these DreamHack events used to all be fairly large scale events in the CS:GO scene. They've died off. Now, with it being a point system, I think it brings them back to some some sort of relevance, right?
Hmm.
Um, and they'll be going head to head against other top tier teams. So that's the biggest difference. They're not going to be playing against an MDL team or a tier two team.
Right.
They're going to be playing against the best. So yeah, it makes those smaller tournaments that were irrelevant now relevant, but they're playing good teams, so it's going to be relevant for a reason, not just the point.
Now, again, this is going to be stretched over 20 events throughout the year. So this is not any type of like, oh, it's just going to happen during the spring or we're just a second half of the year type of circuit. Like, no, this is going to be a year long, circuit, a year long season. And, of course, this all sounded grand. The tweets and everyone was like, this is amazing. This is great. Awesome. Thank you, ESL and DreamHack. And then all of a sudden, Decay CS:GO reporter kind of read the fine print and said, "Wait a minute, some of this doesn't sit right. Some of this doesn't look exactly like what we kind of agree upon in the CS:GO community." And that's exclusive rights or exclusivity rules, which has been an issue in the past with CS:GO. If we remember PEA, which was the NA Players Association. I forget what it stands for, but it pretty much was the NA Players Association
Yeah.
before the Players Association. It lasted all of like a month before uh the world turned on them and they pretty much disbanded because they tried creating exclusive rights. You have WESA,
Yes.
which was
Yeah.
like the European Player Union, which I think there's some NA teams involved there, but when was the last time you heard from them?
Well, they were
They
trying to do some stuff with NIP and all that, like some exclusivity with
like
them and having them involved in the league. And yeah, I mean, those are kind of fallen apart. This to me is an issue, going to be an issue on a much bigger scale than those because of the power behind ESL and DreamHack combined, right? Like this is two juggernauts kind of getting together here to put not only a lot of money on the table, but like so they're going to have two championships or masters events, right? That's going to be Katowice and Cologne. Those two are events that every Counter-Strike player wants to be at, regardless if it was part of this tour or not. Um, with WESA and PEA and these guys, it was going to be harder for them to get buy-in from the top tier teams, right? Like, oh, you're telling us to be exclusive? Like, who the hell are you to tell us to do this,
Right.
right?
You
A
need
little
us more
different.
than we need
Yeah,
you.
exactly. And now that's kind of a role reversal. Not to say that the players need ESL and DreamHack, but majority of the big tournaments are coming from those two TOs. So, like in a sense, they do need them if they want to, earn the same type of money that they're making throughout the year.
But
So,
let's look at some of these rules here then, and you can tell me if it aligns with like back in the day when they were like true exclusive, you can only play with this type of
okay.
league or whatever. I forget what it was too. Was it ESL trying to create a exclusive? Wasn't ESL trying to do that? Sign teams where you can only be in ESL. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, there's been
But
so many different
I think
instances
it
of
was
something
right.
similar
But that's
happening.
the thing is
Yeah.
like all these guys, every time they announce a new circuit, it's they do this. They always try to like sneak it in, right? Like right before you sign the dotted line, they slide in another paper underneath it saying like,
Like,
"Oh,
hey
by the
guys,
way, you can't play anywhere else." So
just sign this one too, real quick. Just sign this.
yeah. So you have here exclusive rule conflicts here. Member teams of the ESL Pro League cannot compete in any other Counter-Strike leagues where the start date and final date are more than 14 days apart. Also, all of these exclude Valve events, so aka the major, right? So none of this affects the major, of course. All right, so that's a very important line there because you're thinking, okay, well, what's the big deal? It's just like 2 weeks, right? Except for these all start pretty much at the same time. This would affect teams playing in ECS at the same time. So the teams playing in ECS also like
Well,
wouldn't be able to participate.
this is saying you can't be in any other leagues that have more than a 14-day time period. So this would exclude ECS or any other sort of formatted league because no league is just a 2-week league, right? That's a tournament. Tournaments might last 2 weeks in terms of
Where to start?
qualifiers and
Oh,
that. So
okay.
this is saying that
I'm dumb.
they
I read that
cannot
wrong.
be
I read it as 14 days from the start of the
of
ESL
their
Pro League.
season, and
You
then
mean
yeah,
like literally like they want the league to be no more than 2 weeks long.
you
And I think
cannot
you're right.
perform in an event where the start date and the end date of that event, whether it be a league or a tournament, is not more than 14 days
Okay.
apart. So
So that's like
that is
E-League.
saying, hey, you cannot be in any other leagues. That's what that's saying. Okay, so they can go to all these other tournaments for the most part. Then we'll get into that next. But they cannot join another league. So this excludes them from joining an ECS or a Blast Pro Series league where that's a 90-day league. It might even be longer. Don't quote
60
me.
days, I think.
60-day league,
Teams are
whatever it
only to
is. So
participate. That's the next my note here is teams are not only participate in tournaments for 60 days of the year. So meaning like throughout all the other tournaments throughout the year, you cannot compete for more than 60 days total. Meaning they're pretty much putting a game lock on the teams. Like you can't go to every tournament every weekend if it makes more than 60 days, which I to be honest, I don't know how
I
big
don't
of a
know how the schedule kind of
deal.
works out
Yeah, I was gonna
now and
say
how that
like
is. So
I think that might just be trying to be fair for to cap out the point system, right? That way you can't be
yeah,
like, well, this team competed at every event. Like, of course they're gonna have more points or anything like that. So there's that. Before we continue, just to prove that we are a listener podcast here, in the chat, Solios comments, Anuj, please fix your pillow. It's upside down. So before we continue the show, Anuj has to fix his pillow. So there we go. Don't
done.
say that we don't do anything for the listener. It is now right
Got
side
him.
up, and we can continue.
Doesn't feel the same.
Continuing here, while the Pro League is in progress, teams participating cannot participate in any other tournaments or leagues apart from Valve competition or online qualifiers for tournaments with a prize pool of 200,000 or more. So little footnotes on this. At least 2 teams with ESL Pro League spots have not yet agreed to participate in the tournament circuit, and organizations will not be able to participate in ECS Season 8 while in Pro League. So
There
right
you go.
there is your exclusive. That's your exclusivity. Oh my god,
Exclusivity.
Ex- that word. That right there is what's going to get everyone in trouble, because that's exactly what we always tried avoiding. Years ago when PEA was trying to sign exclusive rights and everything. Like right there is the issue. And then on top of all of that, ECS is starting pretty much right now. Like teams have already started playing like in that early stage of I still can't figure out the ECS format. Like it's a joke. I really don't understand it. But that's already started. And they were trying to be the cool guy and be like, guys, look, we're just a chill league here. Anyone can stream the matches. You just go and enjoy some Counter-Strike. And in the meantime, ESL and DreamHack are like, fine, you can be cool all you want, but we're going to lock down teams into our league. And Blast Pro is like, whatever, guys. We're going to just money whip the hell out of everyone. So good luck.
What do you think happens here? I mean, what is the outcome for this?
So I have 2 answers to that. I have what should happen and what will happen. Before I get into that, ECS did announce that they are going to be allowing people to stream matches and like commentate over that. So for our listeners, if it's something that interests you, we are going to do that. We're going to try to pick maybe a match a week, right? Like the TCR match of the week for ECS, and we're just going to commentate over the match. I wouldn't really call it casting or doing play-by-play. It's a very loose term, but it should be fun nonetheless.
We're going to give you our live insight to the
We're
game.
pretty much going to be making fun of the teams, but
Yeah.
that's besides the point. So we'll be doing that. But to answer your question, Anuj, what do I think will happen? I think what should happen, and it's too late. It's too late at this point. But the Players Association should put their foot down and go up to ESL and being like, no, like I don't care what type of point system you have or what you think you're doing. We're not going to do it that way. Right? And you can deal with it or not, right? You can be happy when the only teams that keep showing up to your events are tier 2, and then those are the ones that make it into your finals because all your top tier teams can't do it. Or you can drop that rule and allow other teams to do it. And then for Blast Pro, I think the Players Association or teams anyways should step up and be like, dude, like what happened to the schedule? Like what happened to working things out to where we're not playing every other weekend at these events around the world? Like, I don't know what the Players Association do at this point other than make dramatic tweets and twit longers to people, but they really don't seem to be doing what I thought that they were there to do, and that was to prevent things like this. So what I think should happen is they should be getting involved with this. They should be telling them this isn't going to work. But what I think will happen is the Players Association really has no say or backbone in any of this, and the players are going to suffer and play in the leagues. You're going to have some teams back out of ESL. I think it's going to be, a mess midway through. I think it might start out okay, but midway through, it's going to be a mess. And there's going to be so much exceptions handed down in ESL, it's going to be a joke.
So what I'm curious about is they say at least 2 teams that have pro spots haven't agreed to participate in the tournament circuit. I'm curious if that means the other 6 have like agreed saying yes, we would like to participate, but have they also agreed to the exclusive part, right? Like the wording is like super vague there. It
Right.
doesn't really say. Yeah, I mean, I can see teams wanting to participate, obviously, right? Like there's money on the line, the tournaments are great, ESL does a good job, DreamHack does a good job. So like why wouldn't you want to be in the league? But I'm more curious to see how many of the 6 that have agreed have really truly agreed to every part of what they said on what ESL is asking for. I do think this is more of like ESL throwing everything and kind of seeing what sticks though at the same time, right? Like let's
Yeah.
ask for everything that we could possibly want to make this perfect in our world, and then now let's see what everybody agrees to. Ultimately, I don't see the exclusive part working out. I do see teams wanting to compete in multiple leagues. Now, this doesn't mean that every team is necessarily going to compete in ESL, ECS, and Blast Pro, right? But I could
Right.
see out of the eight, three or four competing in Blast Pro, three or four also competing in ECS. Um, I just don't see it working out in terms of the exclusive part. Other than the exclusive part, I love what they're doing. I love the idea of at least two of them combining forces here, ESL and DreamHack. I think they have enough great events around the country, or world throughout the year, where they could really make this work in a point scale system and have some sort of ranking other than what we just see on HLTV, right? Like it'll
Right.
be nice to see a true point leaderboard, and these events matter for them to go to.
Very
Um,
tennis like for those who keep up
yeah,
with tennis. Each tennis event has a point system, and not every tennis player plays you know, in every
every
event.
event.
So
Yeah,
and some events are worth more, which is I believe the same is going to be here. So it is
yeah.
very tennis like if you're familiar with that.
Which I'm not opposed to it. So
No.
I think a more proper structured league system would be good for Counter Strike as a viewer. I mean, I would like to only see one or maybe two leagues tops anyway. But I think we'll see all the best teams in this league. I just think there's going to be some tweaking ultimately that's required here. I did see one thing that stood out to me for ESL. They are doing a league within this league for the minor league circuit, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to include the MDL league, and then like the European counterpart to it will be able to compete in some sort of league themselves to win upwards of like 250K. I think that's fantastic because the tier two scene needs some love in Counter Strike. There's so much talent there. We're seeing these guys come up the ranks, and that it actually does work. And the what is it, EPL, not EPL, what is the one for these guys queue for at night? I'm trying to remember the
FPL?
FPL. Yeah, like you do see FPL and all that working because Rops, Zywoo, all of these guys kind of come up. Frozen have come up through the ranks of that. So tier two Counter Strike getting some love is pretty exciting in this as well.
Yeah, like I said, I like the idea of the ESL, and I love ESL and DreamHack. Right? I didn't know that they were owned by the same parent company, but they are, which explains why they are the ones emerging. I guess what upsets me more in all of this is, like I said, the fact that we haven't heard anything from the Players Association, that we haven't, the fact that it's gotten to this point yet again where it seems like these guys are going to be competing every stinking weekend, across 3 different circuits.
Yeah.
So I guess on the plus side too, like if you do decide to go with the ESL Pro Tour, I mean that is a like I would almost say 80% of what you play in anyways, because that's including um like New York, Katowice, IEM, all the DreamHack events, the Masters.
I
I mean
wonder if,
it's
if the Intel Grand Slam is still going on. It makes it more realistic that the bigger like top three or four teams in the world will join this league, because not only do they have an opportunity to win a part of that 5 million that's on the line, but another 1 million through the
yeah.
the Grand Slam if that's available. um, so there's a lot of pluses to it. Again, I think the only real negative coming out of here is the exclusivity piece, but I would like to see Counter Strike on more of a structured um, just a structured format. I mean, to have some sort of schedule. I like the way Overwatch does it. I mean, I know it sounds there's things to like and dislike about what Overwatch or Blizzard and them are doing, but having a proper league is nice because I know the days I can go turn it on. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna see the match. I can follow my teams very easily. Right now,
Well, and the storylines
have
follow each week, right? Like, look at
yeah,
it here. Like, Avangard just did the major and they got second place, and here they won Moscow, right? They just beat Blast Pro Moscow, but yet those storylines are completely different because the teams that were in each one. It's like, how much stock do you put into each event with CS:GO?
yeah.
It's just
That's
not
always
the
been the
same.
issue. It's a plus and a minus. We get a lot of great tournaments throughout the years, throughout the year, but there's also a lot of ones that just go unnoticed. I mean, you just don't pay attention to because there's too much. So, um,
Yep.
less
Yep.
could be better. I don't think this will be less. I just think there'll be more value placed on some of these tournaments to make it more appealing to watch throughout the year versus skipping half of them.
Yeah, and just the last thing I'll say about it is for all you CS:GO fans out there trying to talk smack about not having leagues and being, a freedom esport, you're not. You're not. There are leagues that are here. They're just not called leagues. So it's just trust me. If ESL could exclusively sign every big org in there and set up a league, they would. If ECS could sign every org, they would. It's not like any of them are better than any other Overwatch league or League of Legends or the Call of Duty league. They would all jump on it in a heartbeat. They would. But it's just for whatever reason CS:GO structures it this way. Helps when Valve doesn't pay attention. And I also I don't remember if I brought this up a couple episodes ago or if I just told you off air, Anuj, but I think this also shows, like with the prize pool and everything that Blast Pro has and ESL Pro Tour and all that, is the lack of respect that these tournament organizers have towards the major and towards Valve. Like I really do think like the fact that they're trying to one up the major with
I'm the complete opposite on that, though. I think shows a lack in disrespect by Valve's part for not increasing the major prize pool
well,
to
yeah, it
show
can
like
go both ways.
that's
I mean, yeah, the prize pool should be more than 1 million, just
yeah, it should be like at
without
least
question.
5 million coming out of the majors. And these guys, I think it's amazing that the tournament organizers are stepping up and saying, "Hey, we're making a ton of money on this game. We're bringing in a lot of sponsorship money. I mean, just ad revenue, whatever else. I mean, we're able to increase our prize pools. And hey, if we're on par with the majors, so be it. That means more teams will want to attend. But I think that's more of a knock on Valve for being cheap and really just not having the same passion for Counter Strike that most of its fans have.
Yeah, that's a good point. You convinced me that it is Valve's fault. Then I don't blame. I take it back what I said. There's it's not disrespecting the major. It's Valve is just being lazy.
Disrespectful to its
Yeah,
best
they're just
game.
being lazy is all it is. But what Valve should do is download Thrive Fantasy and use the code TCR at sign up. They could bet the prize pool. Okay, they do football, baseball, they do esports. You can bet on League of Legends, Dota, Counter Strike. They have everything there. You bet on it, you win. Not guaranteed, but you know how it works, right? You're not dumb. I don't have to
Close
explain
enough.
how gambling works. And then all of a sudden, they can increase the prize pool for the major. But that's only if you download Thrive Fantasy and use TCR at sign up. You will get $10 matching for your first $10 deposit. Easy as that. So there's that for CSGO leagues. Just get ready for them because they are happening. Like I said, ECS is happening now, and then I think everything else is just happening next year. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. Let's get into some clutch or kick, though, Anuj. If you don't mind, let's entertain the listeners with this clutch or kick. If you are not familiar, if you are new to the show and not familiar with the segment, this is a completely 100% original idea. It may sound like buy or sell, but it's completely original and it's not like buy or sell.
100% different.
So this is where we will take some headlines, read some stories, and then tell you if they clutch the round and stick around, or if they kick and we don't believe any of it, or you should not believe the hype. So here, clutch or kick for the first story. Team Liquid's Dota 2 roster disbands after discovering Kurokai wants to make his own org. So some of the players and the manager wanted to split off of Liquid and make their own org. This is pretty nuts. This was very unexpected. The news broke on Friday, and you had it to where, I mean, Liquid is, they got second place at the International. They consistently, are top 5 team, a favorite in any tournament they enter.
They always
can
do well. They've
win.
been good for a long time. Like a
Yeah,
long
like
time.
they are a Dota 2 staple, and to see the entire team disband like that, And it wasn't like the team, like it wasn't on the org side, it was on the player side pretty much saying like, look, we're done. Like we're done here. Very odd. Just to go over some stats. They have been majority of the same roster for the over the last few years. Some people in and out, but for the most part, in esports terms, the same roster. Liquid's total earnings from Dota 2 so far are almost $22 million, with more than 4 million won just from their TI roster. They got first place in 2017 at the TI, fourth in 2018, and second, like I said, this year. So I will say for the first clutch or kick, can Liquid rebound from this disband? Can the org, not the players, but the org, because of course the CEO is talking big game, saying, yeah, so we respect the players' decision and we wish them the best of luck, which is a complete lie. Because if I was that CEO and the player came to me and said, I want to leave to start my own org, I'd be like, I hope you effing fail. I hope you never win another game in your life. Good luck, you POS. Get out of my office.
We'll get into this on the next part, but he came from the same environment himself. He was a player who created an org also. So he has some understanding of where these guys are coming
Not after
from.
getting second place at the TI, though.
Yeah, no, I mean to answer this, oh man. I mean, Liquid's so
Let's give him an over on. I guess we got to give him a time frame. Within the next 6 months.
well, let's say by the next international, are they a top
Okay.
3 team?
Okay, that's fair.
Right? Because they basically, we could even say top 4. They've placed
Top
top 4 in the past 3 years. Okay, so can they regain that status
By
by
the
the next international?
international.
That's 1 full year, pretty much.
I have to say kick. I mean, you are losing a top 5, top 3 roster here. It is not just as easy. I mean, yeah, you could get good players, but you also need the free agents out there to pick up, right? And it's like, who's out there to pick up right now to where you could all of a sudden instantly create that chemistry to be another top 4 team? I don't see it happening, and it's going to be so weird to see this type of rebuild for Liquid.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree. We've seen this before in other esports. I mean, you saw Cloud9's Counter Strike roster kind of
Still a
disband
top
after they
5.
won the
It's
major.
amazing how they've stayed.
They've had trouble cracking the top 50 at times. So I'm gonna have to say kick. Although I do have faith that Liquid will rebound at some point. I don't think
Yeah.
it's gonna be a quick turnaround because they're gonna
No.
have to buy a roster out if you want to remain, in that top 3, top 4 status there. So I'm gonna have to say kick. Although I have faith that they will rebound at some point. I
Just
think
not
Liquid
within
is
the year.
no, it's too hard, man. You're losing one of the best team. You're losing one of the best teams. Um, you have no. I would assume that this probably caught them relatively off guard. So it's not like they had a
Yeah.
team in waiting. Why would you? You probably weren't even looking to replace anybody after coming off of a second place finish. They're going to take a financial hit here when it comes to how much they've earned off of Dota. Now, if they can reinvest that money to go get another unit, then sure. But if they're going to just have to piece players together, it's going to be very difficult and just it seems a little unrealistic to happen that quickly.
So on the flip side, the other clutcher kick is in the realm of player-owned organizations. As we mentioned, Kurokai has earned over 5 million from his Dota play. Had previously formed his own team in 2015, which ultimately was the team that was signed by Liquid, right? So he has some history back there, and he's only 26 years old. Now, he looks 26 going on like 42, but that's besides the point. I don't think that has anything to do with your skill of starting an org, but maybe. I don't know. So I really have it's a loaded clutcher kick, but it's clutcher kick. Can a player start up an organization in today's esports world? Like clutcher kick, will this be successful for the player?
So that's like a two-part question, right? Because you're asking, can it be successful for a player, group, organization, or for them in particular?
Let's use them in particular, just for this example. since it's a part of that
So,
story?
I think there's a chance when it comes to money value, they will get possibly purchased by another team and make money off of it this way, probably the way they did with Five Jungs back in 2015. I don't think I don't think in this esports market it's very easy to make a successful esports teams. We've seen this right with Microfail and Envy, Optic and Hex, Nade Shot and 100 Thieves, most recent. But those are very one-off scenarios. You have a bunch of God Sense and other teams out there that have also tried to do this, and it really hasn't fared well. Notice the ones that we named are kind of OGs in the place as well, right? Like your Hex
Yeah.
and your Microfail. They did this very early on. Nade Shot, where he's unique, has built a brand or a lifestyle brand, right? Like it's a clothing empire first, then almost an esports
Well, and Nate
organization
Shot
part
too
two.
is like so charismatic, right? Like the dude is friends with Drake, and like so he is a celebrity to celebrities.
People want to be around you, right?
Right.
When you're somebody like Nade Shot. So for
I've never
this
talked to
particular
Kiro before,
venture,
but
but we've seen interviews and stuff, right? We've
he's
seen
got
enough to kind of
almost no personality to me. Like I can't see him trying to create a brand and then selling me on that brand and me being like, "Oh damn. Like I need to get Lil Wayne in on this one. Like you guys would get along so well." Like it
yeah.
he doesn't come across that way. You know,
Clutch for them doing well within Dota 2. They're going to stay a good team, right? But
yeah.
Kick for them being a very successful esports org
So let's say
across
this,
the
we'll
board
give them the same treatment that we gave Liquid. Top 4 in next year's TI?
as a competition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll give them a clutch for that. They've done it the past 3 years. There's no reason to think that they can't do that again. Obviously, there'll be more on their plate in terms of running an organization. But if you hire the right people, generally a lot of those responsibilities are taken away from you. Like I said, I think they'll be good in Dota. I think they'll remain relevant and be very good in Dota. I don't think, however, they're going to be a very successful organization in the esports environment outside of the Dota world. And maybe that's not their goal. Maybe they just want to create a
Just
Dota
stay in
org,
Dota.
and that's all they do. And if that's what they want to do, yeah, I think it'll do okay. But
And you know, we've
beyond
seen
that,
that too. Like I think I'm going to give them the clutch on this one because I think of teams like yeah, I mean we just compared them to 100 Thieves and Optic and Envy and stuff, and like you said, those were OGs and they're still top of the industry, right? I'm gonna say maybe like an Astralis. Astralis used to be primarily TSM, and then when TSM, when they went separate ways, the players decided to create Astralis, which eventually turned into. I think they do have other teams now, but primarily a CSGO org, and like there's investors involved, and there's ownerships involved, and things like that. I do think that is possible. Again, just focus on Dota, right? And then maybe looking at branching out. Like, I don't think that they want to leave Liquid and then create Liquid 2.0 and get all these different players in different games. Like, I think what they want to do is just go create their own thing in Dota. Why exactly, other than just to say you did it? I don't really. I mean,
well, you get
Liquid's
your own
not like a
sponsorships, right?
bad
Like you're not
org.
giving away the cut, regardless of what the cut is, whether that's 5%, ten
Like
percent.
they wanted a Red Bull
Now,
sponsor when Liquid went Monster, maybe. Like
well,
maybe that
possibly.
was.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a lot of different sponsorship opportunities that were presented to them over the past couple of years that they couldn't take up. Again, yeah, if it's the Astralis route, nobody's going to say Astralis is not successful, right? And they really just compete in CS:GO for the most part, and they're one of the best orgs in CS:GO. Liquid, I think, can have that same not Liquid, whatever they name themselves. I think can have similar success within the Dota environment should they stick together, continue to grow. 26 is kind of an old esports player, which sounds weird. I know you said he's only 26, but like in playing years, like is
But
he
to
going to play for
to
another
start
3?
an org though, I think that's kind of
It's
young.
young. Yeah, for sure. To start a org, it's
How
young.
old is Nate Shot?
30, I think.
Uh, he's
Jeez.
27.
Is he really? Lord.
Oh, what have we done with our lives? Create the #1 esports podcast. That's what we did. So,
Other than
what's up,
that,
Nate
nothing.
Shot? What have you done? Uh, let's get on to the last clutch or kick here, which is kind of in the same realm of what we were just speaking about. And this is for Hazmat Pete, our resident optic homer.
And
Hex.
our Chicago connoisseur, who will have to do all of our meetings with Hex going forward.
Yeah, he will be our go-to reporter. Hex declined to remain in his role at Optic. Not really sure what role that was, other than just being Hex
Declined
and Optic.
a role with Optic. We don't know what that role
Right.
was.
And this, so like that was news one today, right? Like that news broke, and then like later on in the day, the second part of that is Hex joins NRG as co-CEO. So you think people in that industry you think people in that org are like, I have worked here for 10 years trying to suck up to the CEO, and you walk in the door. So now Hex is officially no longer part of Optic. It is officially not Optic's. Oh my God, not Hex's Optic, and it is now with NRG. Of course, NRG is owning the Call of Duty League Chicago spot. Still no name associated there. Maybe the Chicago Hexes. Oh, not a terrible name like Hex as in curse,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Hex tongue in cheek with Hex the owner. Not a bad. You know what, NRG? Take that for free.
That's from
I,
TCR.
I don't even need credit. You want to name it the Chicago Hex? That's you. It's all you. You're welcome. There's a lot to discuss here. I don't even know what the real clutch or kick is. We just need an excuse to bring up this story. I will say clutch or kick, will this work out for Hex and NRG?
Yeah, 100%. This is going to work out for Hex and NRG. I think this is what a play, first of all, by Hex to come in as co-CEO. I don't even know how you do that to an established organization and be like, hey, you know what? I want to run half this company.
Your co-CEO.
Like, this is what I want to do. I want to go ahead and take
Welcome
half of
aboard.
your job. No, I think
How do you even? I want to know who approached who on that one.
yeah, this is an insane pickup. I think it's great for NRG. I think this is a what a bang to enter your Call of Duty career with by bringing in Optics fans. That's going to happen. I know a part of this clutch or kick is, will Optic fans start cheering for Chicago? And I believe that they will. I believe that a lot. This is a clutch for me. I believe that they will take a lot of that fan base. I think NRG becomes much more relevant now within the COD space. Hex, for as much crap as we've given him as part of the curse and all the fun that we've had with Optic over the years. I'm glad that continues, because NRG will never win a major title now, so that's a given.
Hate
But
to see it.
B, having him in the scene is so important, and he's such a vital member to the COD community. His outreach with the fans is bar none. He loves to be involved, from a video logging and interviews, the Hex cast, and all this stuff. So I do think a large part of Optics fans are Hex fans first, and they're gonna follow him over to NRG. I don't see why they wouldn't. Um, there's been a clean cut now with him and Optic, and yeah, I mean, I think this is just a big win for NRG all around. It's definitely 100% clutch for me.
I do agree with most of what you say. I will say I always thought it was funny with the idea that he stayed with Immortals, just because that is such a dirty move on Immortals' part to buy out Optic from under him, like to outbid him for Optic and then being like, "Sorry, buddy, but you want a job?" Like I hear you're
We got this.
jobless.
We got this internship coming up next quarter.
Right, yeah, we got a little position for you if you need it. Just bought this new org if you hadn't heard. So we got some room for you if you need it, Hex. So I always thought that was a little dirty that Immortals even entertained that idea. And I also thought it was funny that people thought that might be a thing, because I think Hex is prideful. I don't know if that's, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, right? But I do think he has too much respect for himself to go and work for Optic when it's not his Optic, right? It's like, No, not really. Like we're not buddies right now. You guys just kind of screwed me out of my own org. So
He's not in a taking orders kind of mood. It doesn't seem like.
hence walking in as co-CEO.
Yeah,
Like that right there tells you the type of guy Hex is when his day one position, like
as boss. Your
he's not
title is
working
boss. That's when you walk in.
he's not working the front desk. He's going right to co-CEO. So I do agree it's clutch that the Optic fans are going to move over to Chicago, mainly because they're the worst fan base in esports and they don't know what the hell they want and they're fair weather fans and they're going to complain about it and no matter what. And you know what? Those same fans that say not Hex's Optic are also tweeting out hashtag green wall when Optic does well. So I see you. I know exactly what you're doing. And now you're going to be rooting for LA and Chicago because it's just what you guys do. And I do agree Hex means so much to this community. They mean, he basically is the largest voice in the Call of Duty scene. Easy. But I will say kick that this will work out for NRG because I think Hex is scum. I think he's going to carry over the Optic curse to them. I think it was the worst signing NRG could have done. And now they're not going to win ever. They'll never win a Call of Duty League championship. I feel sorry for them. I personally was always a fan of NRG, but now that you associate yourself with Hex, I put the curse on to you and have fun.
You think he'll fix their merch? Because their merch sucks.
Would you judge me if I said it's grown on me?
The NRG merch?
Yeah, I kind of like it.
You probably just like that sweater that Hex wore in the video.
Nah,
But what about
it's
their
grown
other
on me.
stuff? No, it hasn't grown on you.
It's grown
This
on
is
me.
the
I
baby
liked it.
talking.
I liked it.
Lack of sleep, I understand.
it's the
Come
lack
back
of
to
sleep
this,
that's
the lack
making
of
me
sleep.
enjoy the NRG rebrand. No, so what a crazy roster move, right? What a way to kick off the roster manias by signing Hex as your co-CEO.
I'm assuming this means our new rivalry is going to be COD Dallas versus COD Chicago. Because the rivalry is really between Rufael and
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
this is
I think that's where they have the friendly rivalry where the fans genuinely don't like each other. I agree with you. That one I think carries over to Chicago. It's really going to be weird to see the Optic fans who still like Optic,
I think because it's going city based, every fan base is going to have its fair amount of fans, right? So that's
Of
the kind
course.
of nice
Yeah,
thing
right.
about
I'm talking
not
about
just
like
being tied.
Optic fans, right? Like
Yeah.
true
How many true Optic fans stay with the Optic
green
brand?
wallers out there, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see if they can just really just switch that gear and root for someone not.
They'll lose a
green
bunch,
wall.
they'll gain a bunch for LA based fans.
They'll live. I think they'll do just fine.
They just
Hazmat
won't live
Pete in
on
Twitch
with
chat
Hex.
sarcastically asked, "How is he supposed to get a interview with Hex now that I dogged on him?" This is what you do, Hazmat Pete. You ask him once, he'll say yes, and then he'll ghost you. You ask him twice, ask him a second time, then he'll say yes, and then ghost you. And then you won't end up with an interview with him at all because that's just what Hex does. So there you go.
Tell him TCR sent you. He'll know what it means.
He'll love it. He'll love it. So no, Godspeed there. I do think it's really cool to, in all honesty, see Hex be back into another role. Because I'm not gonna lie, for a little bit there, I almost thought he was just gonna chill,
stay away and be in the sunset.
Yeah, I just thought he was gonna enjoy his fishing boat and just do his thing, and then come back later and
great
see
org
what's
to be a
there
part
for
of
him.
right now. The Counter-Strike team is very relevant. I'm sure their COD team is now also going to be a great team. So very excited. I think that org is on the up and up.
Just a shame they won't ever win.
Yeah, they'll never win a championship, but they could stay number 2.
Just a shame, really. Let's get into some e-news. But before we do that, let me do some house cleaning on the show just because I forgot to do it at the beginning. I have reworked our Discord a little bit. I'm sure it's going to change here and there, but I added a looking for group section. So if it is what it sounds like. If you're looking for a group to play some games with, drop in your PlayStation Network, your Xbox Live gamer tag, Steam, Blizzard, whatever it is that you typically play on, and just say, hey, looking for people to play with, hit me up. There's that. Want to kind of work on the community, right? I put my information there, so if you want to play some. If I ever play video games again with this child, I don't know. He's ruining my life. And second is I added a episode section, so you can always find the latest episode there. Updated our info section, but most importantly, I added a self-promotion section on our Discord. So if you run an org, if you run an event, hell, if you just need to pimp out something you did, whether it be content creation, I don't really care. Go ahead and post a link there. Let people know what it is, and help each other out in the TCR community. We really, again, we always try to pimp out the grassroots of esports and all that. So hopefully the self-promotion area in our Discord can do that. So, and if you're a streamer, I don't think anyone really cares about your stream, if I'm being honest. But maybe if you're a streamer, I'll create a streamer section, and then you can just post when you go live, or I can create a bot that has it if you let me know you're a streamer that streams consistently or something like that. So either way, anything we can do to help out your little community or big community, just post it in there. I don't really care. That's the best way to do it. Other than that, our website is still down. Story on that is that we are going to be working with a website guy to redesign the website, but it just also happened to be like when our host license ran out. So it was like, okay, well, do we buy another year of the website, or do we just wait to see what the guy who wants to redo it do? So we're just waiting on that. So the website will be back if any of you cared about that. So there's that. Is that everything, Anuj?
I think so. We should be kicking off our second episode fairly soon. That'll start being on Wednesday nights. That'll probably be a little bit of a later episode to start off with. I'm thinking we'll probably start that between 8:30 9 Central.
Yeah.
Right, Tim? Ish,
Yeah.
right around there. That'll also be streamed live, but that'll be available on all outlets if you can't catch the stream, obviously. But I would expect that to probably go live in the next 2-3 weeks. We got a little bit of a travel schedule coming up here.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe we do it after Overwatch League and decide to go live then with it. But that'll be happening again. That'll be Wednesday nights. We'll be doing Sunday night and Wednesday night stream.
Yep. So they'll just kind of keep an eye on that for sure on Twitter. All right. Let's get into some e-news. Talked a little bit about it already, but Vanguard, however you say their name, defeated Fours 2-1 in the grand finals of Blast Pro Moscow. Again, this was Zeus's last hoorah for Na'Vi. And boy, did they treat him right. Going out dead last, going 0-1-4.
So he played in a show match after the event. So his final death ever in Counter-Strike, even with the show match, is getting knifed by Get Right. That was his farewell to CS. So, anyways, yeah, that's, event looked good. I didn't see any flaws in the event. Usually Blast Pro actually does a pretty good job with their stream setup and all that. But yeah, Avangard at least got a little, it has kept it going. If anything, that's what it at least shows from this tournament, is that they are able to compete. There were still some good teams in this tournament. It's not like nobody was there. I think we had
Nip.
I think Nip was in it. Obviously Navi. Yeah, so there were some good teams, and they were able to prevail. So good for them.
Keeping in line with Blast Pro, they were very busy this week with announcements as they announced the Blast Pro Series.
Bahrain, man.
Bahrain.
Yeah, Bahrain. It's actually a funny story. So a little story time. I got three of my really good friends from college. They were my study partners, all from Bahrain. And there was international transfer students. We had a lot of classes together. So they always talked about how beautiful the place was. This will be pretty cool to see them get a tournament. I know it's getting pooped on a lot. Doesn't it feel like it's getting pooped on quite a bit? Like, why are you doing it there?
Almost deservingly so.
Is there does it matter where it's at necessarily? We see tournaments everywhere, so I'm trying to figure out the issue.
I would say if you wanted to do a tournament there, not a big deal. But to host a global final featuring a $500,000 prize pool,
Where do you think they got the
maybe.
500K from to give away?
Well, of course, that's the joke, right? Is that like, oh, this is oil money written all over it. I think apart from you, who actually had study buddies from there, 99% of the people couldn't point it out on a map. I had to look it up, right? I figured it was Middle East when people started making oil money jokes, but it's just an odd location, right? Like typically you expect to see London or New York,
Yeah.
LA, whatever. Like props for Blast Pro. And it's also, I think it was like the announcement where, again, Blast Pro making ridiculous statements saying the biggest esport event ever held in the region. No. You don't say. So that's going to be in December. So it'll be an interesting crowd nonetheless. I would like to see, they said it has a growing Counter-Strike scene.
TCR just might be there.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That's the event we're going to go to. Real quick, shocks to Vitality. We won't break that down entirely right now because we're waiting on more of the post-major roster shuffle to happen before we get too far into them, but that did happen.
Too many thoughts there that I'll just save for
just save. I just wanted to
episode.
say it for the sake of saying it, but we'll save our real thoughts for later on. In Overwatch, you did have the playoffs wrap up, so now we are on to the grand finals. Vancouver won 4-3 versus NYXL in the winners finals, obviously sending them down to the losers where they lost to Shock 4-0. What a tough way to go for New York because they played so good against Vancouver. Like that one could have gone either way, obviously going 3-3. And then to get 4-0'd by Shock, which it still was, it wasn't a blowout 4-0. It was close. It's just you really end up feeling bad for New York when it's like 2 seasons in a row. People were saying that you were the favorite, right? It was yours to take. You were supposed to make it to the finals. I thought it was going to be Vancouver and New York in the finals. But props to Shock for taking it. They didn't drop, Shock, that is, San Francisco, didn't drop a single map for the entire losers bracket. So that's pretty nutty. I mean, say what you want about New York being there, but to get knocked down first round in losers and then, I mean, to not drop a map, that's pretty nutty on their part.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, we were watching that at your house a little bit too, and
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that they won ultimately, because I think we're going to get the best finals that we could ask for here with Vancouver and Shock. So
yeah, and we'll be there, and a little selfish, kind of glad a non-Korean team made the finals because I was there last year for Media Day, and Philadelphia was much more enjoyable to talk to. Not that there's anything wrong with Korean players. It's just easier to do an interview with an English-speaking player. It's better for audio. It's better for the show. Not saying there's anything wrong with it.
Other than that, we don't like Koreans. So
that's besides the point. Yeah, my dislike for Koreans has nothing to do with my interviews with them.
No.
Tim
won't go to San Francisco for that reason
alone. The most heartbreaking moment, though, in esports that I've ever seen was during Rialto, the last map of Shock versus New York, as I could never say the guy's name, but Sayabielbi. I butchered it. Don't hate me. But there was a moment where Sabe, is what I'll call him because we're best buds, had to give like a pep talk to Flowers. And you can find the clip. I'll tweet it out. He was holding Flowers' hand, Anuj. Holding hands while giving him a pep talk. Like, buddy, the ship is going down. Like, it's been an honor playing with you.
Is this something that we should like kind of pick up into our friendship?
Should. Maybe at like DreamHack Dallas, when we do the Counter-Strike tournament, the BYOC Counter-Strike tournament, and we just know we're going to get rolled, you just hold my hand and say, it's going to be okay. We're going home early, but it's okay.
This is how we wanted it to be.
Yeah. I'll have to tweet it out because it was very emotional. all 12 cities for the Call of Duty League have been announced. We have Atlanta, Dallas, New York, Paris, Toronto, Los Angeles, number 1. Minnesota, Florida, Los Angeles, number 2. Chicago, as we mentioned, NRG now. London, and Seattle. Similar to Overwatch League, I am glad to see a little bit more Midwestern teams in there.
Yeah.
Minnesota and Chicago, I love the fact that they're there, especially being in Dallas, makes travel a little easier for us.
Those are great cities to have teams in too. Minnesota and Chicago. I mean, both fantastic cities to
Yeah.
have a team and super deserving. So I think they did a really good job with the breakdown of where these teams are located. I mean, um, I don't know how much more. Is there any city on here that you look at and you're like, oh, how did they get into this? Or is there a city that we feel is like really not represented here that
Yeah.
really was overly deserving of a spot?
Obviously, it's kind of based off of the teams that were in CWL, right? Like,
Mhm.
even though there wasn't really a French team that I think of off the top of my head. London. What I was going to say is I wouldn't have mind to seen maybe not it, but Atlanta is such a good market for esports. But maybe like one less LA team, or maybe not Atlanta or Seattle. I would have liked to seen one more European team. You have 12 teams here, right? 12 teams?
Yeah.
So you have 12 teams. It would have been nice to see 3 of them.
Like a London franchise or something. Oh,
Well,
London
there's
does have a
London.
franchise. Yeah,
Like
so there's
German,
London, there's
right?
Paris.
Like Berlin
Yeah.
or something, right? Something over there just to, I mean, hell, even like if you give London a second one, right? There's like 500 soccer teams in London. You can fit 2 CDL teams. But I would have just been nice to see one more over in Europe to kind of help out with them traveling and everything. But
I do agree. One less LA team would have been nice. I don't think we needed 2 teams in LA. I know the money allows that to be possible, right? Like there's just so much value
yeah,
in that location for a lot of these teams because of where they're currently located. I think LA fans are fair weather fans for the most part, just because most of them are not traditionally from the LA area. So
Right.
you get a little bit of a diluted market. So I hope they can maintain both of them. We're about to find out the same thing for Overwatch League basically here. So that'll be a good little test trial. But yeah, one less LA team would have been nice. But overall, I think they did a good job with at least getting every main area at
Yeah.
least
No,
geographically
it's a great
covered.
start. It sets it
Yeah.
up now where if they want to do an expansion next year, which I imagine they will, you'll probably see another Texas team, probably another Midwestern team, like Pete said in Twitch chat, St. Louis, Detroit would even be really cool to see. So I think you do have that kind of there to where you can set it up. So I think it will work out just fine. In other news, you have Do Not Peak announced their official plans. Do Not Peak, of course, Sir Scoots and Alchemist, friends of the show, as far as what they're going to do with their new esports production studio. They announced that they're going to do esports production. Scoots says, our goal is to create top-notch original programming and provide world-class solutions and services to our clients. So...
What are y'all doing real quick?
what are you doing again?
I'm sure it'll be great, whatever they're doing. They're very
Look,
vague in terms of what
it's
they
still
are
vague to
doing.
me. Like the announcement still was kind of like, no, yeah, we all assumed that going into it, with your pictures of a giant green screen and $1 million camera. I got that it was a production company. What are you doing? That's what I want to know, Alchemist. So, but we'll find out. Maybe we'll even have Alchemist on the show to talk about it.
That'd be
And
awesome.
last but not least, TSM is to build a $13 million training facility. So by Jason Lake's logic, they're going to be tier 1 in no time.
That is true. That is true. Hey, TSM though, I mean, I would still love to see them re-enter the CS market. I know they've talked about it before, but that's another org that really the games that they're in, they generally put out a great product. So
See, I might
good
be
for them
ignorant
there.
then. Like, what is TSM that good in to create a $13 million training facility?
Well, League of Legends, and they were good in Counter Strike when they were there, right? Like
Yeah,
they
when they were
had
there.
Astralis, and then they also had the younger roster with Automatic, and they were able to scout talent really well when they were there. They have, like, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're also like very good in the battle royale genre. Um, and then they got great streamer variety. I know they have some
Yeah.
big name streamers
Honestly,
under
that's
their
kind of
belt.
where I
So
know TSM more from now is just, you know, Crafty and Viz and all that. But there's that. And that will do it for the show. Appreciate everyone who stopped by Twitch. Pete, Kevin, man, just hundreds of you in here. I saw some other people. Solius, thank you so much. Checkpoint, thank you for stopping by. Satsumeyo? Dude, I'm terrible at Twitch names. But thank you for following. Rivogard, thank you for following. We definitely appreciate it. Thank you for stopping by. We love you. And we also love everyone who listened, whether it was all the way through or you skipped around. You're insane, but we love you all the same. We will be back next week. Maybe we'll do our Overwatch League Finals preview. Maybe we'll save that closer. I don't know. We'll keep you updated. We got some roster mania just around the corner. The dam is about to break, folks, for Call of Duty and Counter-Strike. It's just a matter of when. So we will talk about that. Boy, I think that's all I got off the top of my head. But we will definitely be back next week to talk about more esports goodness. Follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Let us know what you think of the show. If you listen on iTunes, leave us a review. We love to hear from you. But I'm Tim for Anuj. We'll see ya.